Good afternoon. I'm calling the meeting to order for the Regional Planning Commission Thursday, September 26, 2019. We can ask for a roll call, please.
Shelley Reed. James Phelan.
Here.
Diane Vanderwell.
Here.
James Barnes.
Here.
Sarah Chilicek.
Here.
Larry Chesney.
Here.
Mark Johnson.
Here.
Kathleen Taylor.
Here.
And Peter Gower.
We're assuming he's just running a little late. Thank you. Commissioner Taylor, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These chairs.
A little
There
tight
you
in here, sorry.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Cowan has joined us. Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, so move.
Commissioner Chesney, second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have, before we start, just as I said last evening, some of you are new to us this evening, there are two types of public comment tonight. There's public comment, and then testimony for the regional plan. So do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Earl.
Let's see. Shall I sit?
You can sit or stand, whatever
I'll
you want to
stand.
do.
More
Okay.
comfortable standing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me or allowing me to speak tonight. I've spoken to you before, and it pertained primarily to a project that will be before you in the next couple of months, and that will be the Silver Hills development out on the Red Rock Corridor. I'd previously spoken about some issues that we projected out there with fire danger, and we commissioned an independent study. It looks at the traffic tax increase, projected tax increases we feel that the Washoe County residents will bear, and the wildfire hazards and impacts. It's a 25-page report. I'd like to give this to the clerk when I'm done, and it can be disseminated to you folks, and you can chew through it and see what you think of it. I would also like to let you know, if any of you are so inclined, on the 17th of October up at Truckee Meadows Community College at 7 p.m. in the Sierra 108 room, we are inviting former Chief of CAL FIRE, Ken Pimlott, to come and speak. And he is very knowledgeable about the dangers of building high-density developments in the wildland-urban interface, and he's going to give us his thoughts on that. And I'm going to go over some of the other information we have here. So we would love to have you folks be there to become more informed on these topics. On that, I think I'll save the rest of my comments for 5A.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I have none.
Thank you. So we're opening it up for the business of the day. I'll return it over, as we did last evening, to our council.
Apologies.
What's that?
What did you say?
I'm as we open for business of the day, I'm turning it over to our council to talk us through our updates from last night to tonight to tomorrow night.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. Just wanted to make a couple brief comments regarding the implementation of the updated regional plan once it's adopted by the Regional Governing Board. Initially, as everyone probably does know, but just to make it clear, any existing entitlements within the region will not be disturbed by the regional plan update. In addition, as determined by the facts and circumstances of each individual case, if anyone has begun a planning process at the local level in reliance upon the 2012 plan prior to the adoption of the update, any regional review that may be triggered by that planning process will be conducted under the 2012 plan. And then lastly, I just wanted to let everyone know this is the second of 3 statutorily required public hearings to receive testimony from the public and anyone who wants to say anything about the plan for this commission's consideration. Thank you very much. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And for any member of the public who wishes to present testimony tonight, if you have not done so already, please fill out a public testimony card with your name and give it to the clerk. We want to ensure that everyone has a full opportunity to present their comments, but also want to proceed in a fashion to ensure that everyone will be heard. We will allow each person 5 minutes. If you anticipate that you will need more than 5 minutes to make your presentation, please let me know and approximately how much longer you will need, and we will accommodate your request. Now I'm going to transfer it to Director Smith to provide an update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Smith, for the record, Interim Director at Regional Planning. So we saw my presentation already last night, but for those that weren't present, we're going to go through it again and talk about the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan Update, the 2019 draft. So just to reiterate, we've just heard about this, but here are the locations and times of the 3 meetings to receive public testimony for the Regional Plan Update. Per state statute, we're at that second one, Sparks. That's today, September 26th. Tomorrow we'll be at Marvin Piccolo Elementary School down on Foothill Road, south of town in the unincorporated county area. And depending on how things go at that meeting, there is potential to bring an item to the Regional Planning Governing Board on October 10th to consider formal adoption of the regional plan draft. Okay, so the regional plan that we have here in the packet and that's available at plantruckeemeadows.org has been a years-long effort that is composed of many elements. This pyramid does a pretty graphical description of those efforts, and I'm just going to kind of touch on each of the pieces, each of the building blocks that led to the draft plan we have today. So to begin in the bottom left corner there, supportive efforts. Really, those were technical efforts that we undertook starting in 2012. We published an industrial land needs analysis in 2013, looking at different industrially zoned land and sort of its infrastructure proximity, its ability to absorb industrial development and jobs. Following on the heels of that, we moved into the housing realm and we started working on a housing study. Some similar ideas there, looking at sort of how well certain parcels that were residentially zoned were served. We actually created 2 scenarios of the future, a classic scenario that looked at business as usual, how had we been building over 20 years, and we projected that same path forward, and a McCarran scenario that just sort of added about 25% of the new forecasted units into the McCarran ring and a little bit denser units. And then we looked at 4 regional services, water, wastewater, schools, and roads, to get a feel for, depending on which way we would grow, which would cost us more in terms of capital infrastructure expenditures. And over that 20-year period, we found that about on the order of $780 million could be saved by building a little denser and a little more towards the core. So those efforts really helped build our technical capacity, helped us get into the GIS modeling realm, and that ultimately led to some of the scenario planning work I'll talk about in a minute. But we also participated in some foundational work, specifically around regional plans and how we were going to go about opening up this regional plan update and moving forward. We participated in a program starting in 2015 from Portland State University, their Urban Sustainability Accelerator. Some of the folks that are sitting on this board also participated in that, along with planning staff from the City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Washoe County. We all went up to Portland for the first get-go. It was a year-long program, and it kicked off in Portland. We were able to work with folks that worked in Portland Metro, their GIS folks, their planners, elected officials. We had little meetings, and we also developed a work plan for the regional plan. So that was kind of a first step towards getting that off the ground. We later came back and did a mid-year convening where we went to the Sacramento area. There's a big regional planning apparatus there called the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, or SACOG. So we got to get into that business a little bit and see how they do things. And also as part of that work, we commissioned a couple of reports. One was done by Robert Liberty, who leads the program, and he basically looked nationally at other regional planning agencies and compared our statutes and our role to those. And we found out that there's not really that anywhere that does it exactly like we do it here, but there are some similarities across the board with regional planning. We also have a report from G.B. Harrington, an expert in transit-oriented development practices, and he came and did a workshop here in the region. Lots of folks went, and he produced a report as well. So we used that work to really kind of springboard us into that gray section of the pyramid, the scenario planning, and the policy evaluation and development. For the scenarios, we built on the housing study, and we created 2 more scenarios, a smart greenfield scenario and an infill scenario. And then we went about measuring the impacts of each scenario over 14 individual metrics, things like how much land was consumed, what was the burden to our wastewater treatment facilities and schools, housing price, housing mix, this kind of thing. And that's all detailed in Chapter 2 of the plan draft. That really helped us to understand trade-offs. We communicated with all of our stakeholders, elected officials, appointed officials, planning staff, the public, and it turned out after that exercise that the preference seemed to be for the infill scenario, followed by smart greenfield. So we tried to kind of work that preference into our regional form map, map 2 in the regional plan draft. But a lot of work was done on that kind of gray building block on the right, policy evaluation and development. We went through every single policy one by one in the existing regional plan. And if you count up the goals and policies, there's over 140 of them. And we streamlined it. We found out what was redundant, what could we combine, what could we remove, and we kept track of that. So we have supporting material that we call the policy crosswalk, where you can see every policy in the old plan, what happened to it, did it become a new policy, where did it go? So that information is there. And we did that working with our partners at the local jurisdictions through something we call the Regional Plan Update Working Group. We would meet for about 2 hours every week, or every other week sometimes, and hash it out together and really build the consensus in the room for those professional planners and affected entity staff that are gonna have to deal with these processes and try to see them through. So that was a long process, but we did reach a consensus. And so now we have 60 policies in the draft plan, down from 140. We hope that they are more implementable and easier to understand. All of that led us to our draft plan that we have today that we're hearing testimony about. And along the way, we did quite a bit of engagement along all of those different pieces. We had over 50 presentations and community meetings. We would go to the realtors, to the builders, to a coffee in the morning with environmental groups, whatever it happened to be, cabs and nabs. We got out there and said what we were trying to do. We launched 7 online surveys, plus a couple of others, but 7 using a tool called MetroQuest. We had almost 4,000 or more participants, actually well over 3,500. We hosted 11 food for thought lunches where we provided lunch, porta subs or pizza. People would come to the RTC office and we would talk about what we were up to. 2 big community conversations were hosted at the Discovery Museum, the Collaboratory Room, and we got some pretty good engagement at those. And then, of course, we've been working with the partners on this Regional Planning Commission and on our Regional Planning Governing Board. We had several workshops, many different public meetings where we have been hashing out the policies, the scenarios, the maps, all of that stuff in a public forum. And then I mentioned the Regional Plan Update Working Group, at least 50 sessions there. Okay, so that got us to the draft plan that we have today that we're talking about. The draft that was out there for a long time on plantruckeemeadows.org was the August 23rd draft. And that really solidified the policy language. We have made 0 substantive updates to the plan since that time. But the draft that's available now, that's in the packet and that's online, is actually the September 23rd draft that we got together on Monday. And just quickly to go through what we changed, it was mostly grammatical edits and graphics, the list of staff that worked on it. We enhanced the table of contents so you can navigate through the plan a little better. Made a list of maps. We talked with the Reno Sparks Indian Colony, and we don't have planning authority in the tribal lands. And we had identified on the first map, our jurisdictional map, that was the case, but they wanted us to basically show that on all the maps, so we added that in as well. And we did a little bit of wording about coordination with that entity, even though we don't have the authority there. And that's kind of our approach across the board with any entity outside Washoe County. We still want to coordinate, even though there's no specific planning authority. Finally, there was one regional utility corridor that already existed that ended up on tribal land when they passed their lands bill and expanded their presence out there in Hungry Valley. So we've denoted that on the map with a different color. And we'll see if we have to deal with that going forward. Other edits, we talked with the Washoe County Health District. They were specifically interested in us calling out their ozone advance program. You guys may or may not know this, but our community is very close to non-attainment in terms of air quality around ozone. And so highlighting the fact that we need to be implementing measures to try to reduce ozone is a good idea. And so we put that into the plan as well. We fixed up some definitions and we finalized graphics. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of address also some of the map work that we've done. You know, what we've tried to do with this plan as well is stay up in the stratosphere a little bit, at the 30,000-foot level, right? And really try to think regionally about, you know, how we're going about this. We have about 4 maps, official maps, in the plan right now. Map 2, the regional form map, is the blue one, and then we have map 4, our development constraints areas. These maps are really designed to illustrate the policies. For example, the blue map, RF2, or the map 2 rather, describes the areas that fall under the policies. RF1, that's the TMSA. RF2, that's our investment priority. RF3 is talking about our regional land designations and the tiering. And then RF5 shows how you can move between tiers. How do you amend the tier map to get, you know, into a different tier? And RF6 is about the rural area, which is everything outside the TMSA, the Truckee Meadows Services Area, which is the black boundary. And that area really is defined by, that's the area within which we would expect to see municipal type services provided in a 20-year time frame. Now, we have found through research that that area has more capacity in it than a 20-year time frame. It's got closer to about 40 years based on our population forecasts that we do as part of the plan. But the map itself is just designed to show the areas that fall in those land designation tiers. On the right, we have what we call the development constraints, and that specifically refers to NR3 in our natural resources section, talking about areas that even today in our existing regional plan are strict, development is strictly forbidden, basically. And these are areas that are federal lands, so like U.S. Forest Service land, BLM land, the AE floodway from FEMA, lakes, playa, hydro, wetlands, all of that kind of a thing. Those are, and slopes greater than 30%. That's the brown on that map. So those two maps really work together. And so I thought we could show a little exercise of how that works when we actually go to do an analysis. So we can start here with this tier map that just shows generally, it's kind of like the TMSA or the state of Nevada, you know, where all this is Washoe County, but not everything in Washoe County is the same. So we can overlay the constraints. You can see there, really watch that rural area. That's the acres in that hatched area, everything outside the TMSA. It's well over 3 million, right? When we apply the constraints, those federal lands knock that total acreage down to under 500,000, right? And the same is true. You can see that we're taking into account all those white spaces can't build there. And that's factored into what we're doing in terms of our analysis. And just to take it a step further, we also look at, you know, that capacity issue. And so here now, I've removed anything that is developed for the assessor. And now we're left with the colors matching those regional land designations, but we've removed the constraints and we're just looking at vacant land or agricultural land in this case as well. And you can see how that plays out in the region. These are areas that, you know, we might see some building on in the future. So just wanted to kind of point out that that's how the maps are working. They're really designed to illustrate the policies, but when we do the analysis, we put them all together with GIS using those layers. Okay, so last night we got to hear testimony over at the Washoe County Chambers. We were in the city of Reno, and I just kind of wanted to summarize quickly some of that. We heard from Bob Listner regarding the regional form map and the tier data and some of those areas out in the North Valleys. We heard from Gordon Gossage from Regenesis Reno about the infill scenario and his 10,000 unit project and how he's been working with Team RPA. Heard from Joanna Trieger from the Truckee Meadows Bicycle Alliance. She had some specific language around connectivity, safety for multimodal transportation, and really trying to get bike lanes off roadways in order to increase ridership and you know, kind of to some degree combat that ozone non-attainment that we're facing potentially. We've been speaking with her, and I do have added to the record an email from her that came through today addressing that, you know, basically if we were to, at the end of these testimony meetings, say we need to go back and kind of reboot this process and open the plan up for some editing, that she would like to see that language incorporated. But if that's not the will of the commission and we move forward, then she's happy to continue to work with staff at TMRPA to get, you know, in a future rendition, probably working through the natural resources plan as well as the public infrastructure investment plan, get that kind of language worked in to the plan. Further, We had a comment from Jim Rundle, City of Sparks staff, about the City of Sparks city limits as portrayed on map 1 in the regional plan draft. We had worked with City of Sparks to get that city boundary, but it turned out we had one area that's actually in the city that was being shown as in the unincorporated area of Washoe is less than 2 acres. Talked with Jim today, we got that fixed, and so that clerical error has been updated across the board. And finally, we read a letter concerning UNR Farms and UNR's sentiment regarding the tiering, the regional land designations on their farm site, and basically that they didn't have enough information and didn't want to support the regional plan moving forward in terms of that tier. So we read that into the record last night, and that's now updated in the packet as well.
Okay. Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Vanderwall.
in response to the letter concerning the UNR Farms property and their tier designation, I would like to propose a motion for the commission to consider that the RPC does not have enough information contained with the letter from Vice President of Administration and Finance from UNR to evaluate the objection from UNR. And I propose that we direct staff to follow up with UNR to further determine the objections from UNR regarding this.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Commissioner Chesney will second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Madam
I'm
Chair.
sorry.
One moment.
Yes.
I think we should save this action item until the end
Oh,
of
all right.
Okay.
the public hearing, and we can pick up this motion
All right,
item.
we'll
And
take-
let's
pick it up
make
later.
sure that we circle back to this concern and make sure, to try to get more information from you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, one more slide for me. We have updated the packets to include all of the correspondence we've received, everything that we had printed out yesterday that wasn't in the original packet we put in, and then anything we received today has also been bundled in there. So everyone should have that, and that's available online digitally at teamrp.org. We updated the map 1, with what I mentioned, with the new, that parcel that should have gone in the City of Sparks. We updated that glossary item I pointed out at the beginning of yesterday's meeting so that we have the correct language describing the rural area in the glossary. And all of that has been incorporated into the draft that's available online at plantruckymeadows.org. That concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Director Smith. Are there any questions based on tonight's presentation? Okay. I will now move to open the public testimony and have Damien will introduce our speakers to us this evening. And then we also have counsel to keep us out of the weeds.
All right, first up I have Bob Listener, and then after that will be Louis Gabriel.
Good evening. I assume you can hear me.
Yes.
Well, I don't see any need to go over my testimony yesterday, so I won't if you don't mind. And I would like to apologize for my phone making noises in the audience yesterday. I apparently have more to learn. Anyway, it's turned off. I've been told quite a few times today just how many people have spent how many thousands, tens of thousands of hours on this project, and that it's been through a lot of meetings, and
Mr.
so I'm
Listener,
here tonight.
you can sit if you would like.
I can sit?
Yes, most certainly. It's much easier. And we can still see you.
So I'm here tonight with hoping that a couple suggestions I have, that one of them might be something that you could do within the limited ability you have to change the plan at this point. And I'm gonna throw them out. You may not like any of them. They're just ideas. And like I said, there may be something that you can do. Our concern is about our Silver Nose property. So first of all, this was drawn yesterday before I really understood how many hours have been put in. See if this shows. It's upside down. Well, what can we do with that? Maybe like that.
There you go.
This is just a pretty drawing of that kind of separates it into the unbuildable and the buildable. And I don't think you could do anything with this drawing, but I wanted you to see it because we had it. The second suggestion is that this page right here, Washoe County properties used to have a cap of 5 per acre, and this plan pretty much takes it away. I'm wondering if within whatever you could do in the next few days, if you could put that back as a 5 per unit cap on county properties. That's a suggestion. And finally, is there any possibility that you could put our Silver Knolls project, which has been in the works for 2 years, has gas on the property, has electric on the property, and a nice road on the property, and water and sewer are stubbed to Silver Knolls? I'm wondering if you could put that into tier 2. Those are my 3 suggestions. I kind of suspect you can't do any of those, but I wanted to get them out on the table. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Louis Gabriel, and after that will be Rick Gabriel.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Louis Gabriel from Reno. I'd like to cede my time to Mr. Russ Earl, if that's permissible. Thank you.
Good evening, folks. I may not need my time slot. This will be fairly brief. There were just a couple of things with the plan and some of the comments that had been made from my understanding last night, that there was adverse effects with the new Tier 3 with a proposed project by Mr. Listner. First off, it was my understanding after talking to Washoe County Planning Department that seeing that his project is in process and coming up for commissioner's review here in about 4 weeks, he would be, the old master plan applied to his project, not the new master plan. So I wanted to clarify that with you folks, that there was no adverse effect to him and his project with the new master plan. The second one with this, with their claim that they have power, water, and everything stubbed, if this is the same Silver Hills project that he just spoke of, all of the presentations we got, there is no water, sewer, or there's power in the area, but there is no water stubbed to any of that project area. It would have to come all of the way up from Echo in the industrial area and all the way through Silver Knolls, disturbing all of the current residents there, or they'd have to find another way to bring water in. So I don't know, from testimony that they had made at many meetings we had, that was in fact never stated when we asked where is water coming from, and they had no set plan as to where they were going to get it. So that I just want to put on the record, as I feel if we're talking about Silver Hills is a false statement. I also wonder about them reintroducing the cap of 5 per acre, because where we are out there is zoned at 1 per acre. And I don't know how that's going to change, although they are asking for an a la carte to have their property removed from the Silver Knolls character management area and create a whole new character management area at their desire of what they want for their zoning, which is not within the master plan currently or in the future for that area out there. So we're adamantly opposed to any changes that they would propose for that benefit to them. It's kind of like putting the fox in charge of the hen house security plan when you let the builder or the developer write their own zoning and a whole new master plan. As they've said, you have spent tens of thousands of hours coming up with a new master plan, and to let a developer circumvent that whole process is just unfathomable to me that that could even be allowed. So I'm slightly off topic here, but those were my things. I think it should be left. Changing things, if it was changed for something other than 5 per acre, there was a reason you folks did that. There was probably a lot of research that was done to that. To leave it back to the way they want it, there's obviously a benefit. I would prefer that it looks like your master plan is very well thought out from the brief time I've been able to look at it, and I highly commend you on everything you've done with that. And I would like to see all of the projects and development and so forth that occurs in Washoe County be done on a very intelligent and thought-out process, not the ad hoc, developer-designed, change the zoning that some of these places are looking at. We already, from what I've read, already have a surplus of units on the books in the next 20 years. And to keep adding to that, I know there is a ballooning of housing values right now, but we are setting ourselves up then for a huge crash if we have a huge surplus of housing. So I commend you on what you did, and those are just my brief comments. Oh, on your Tier 3 map, looking at that, I was a little disoriented being a GIS and geography major from college. Having some type of road or reference point as to what we're looking at with that, major arterial roads, would be very helpful to anybody that didn't create that, so we can see what we're looking at and how big an area or how small an area you have. I don't know how easy that would be to do at this point, but it would certainly make our life easier in reference to what is buildable, what's not buildable, what neighborhoods fall within that Tier 3 of the North Valley's graphic. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
you can scratch my name. Oh, and I'm sorry, for the record, I'm Russ Earl. I'm the president of the Solar Knolls Community Organization.
Thank
So,
you.
And you can pull my card. Thank you.
Ms. Gabriel, do you still want to speak at all?
No, thank you.
You can go next.
I want to withdraw my request to speak.
Okay. Rich Gabriel?
That's it.
Okay. Next up, I have Jim Rundle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regional Planning Commission, Jim Rundle, Planning Manager for the City of Sparks. Based on the letter that came in yesterday and discussion on the University of Nevada farms and proximity to the Sparks sphere of influence and proximity to the Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility, Sparks staff feels that we support the tiers at this point as proposed, and I believe it's called Map 2 in the tiering map. And we would be concerned about any change from a designation of Tier 3 to a more intense designation at this time. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak during this testimony period? Okay, thank you. We'll bring it back to the board. Commissioners? I'm not going to go down the line tonight. I'm just going to let you pop in to see if you have questions or concerns. Okay. Council,
Do you want my motion on the UNR farms?
this would be where Commissioner Vanderwell would submit her motion?
Yes, Jessica Prunny for the record. Excuse my reach.
You have to share microphones.
My understanding of Commissioner Vanderwell's concern is that she feels that the letter from UNR does not provide enough information for her to properly evaluate their objection. Is that correct, Commissioner Vanderwell? And that you would like Director Smith to reach out to UNR to see if they want to have someone respond or provide more detail?
Correct.
I don't know if we necessarily need a motion for that, but if you would like to proceed with your motion, we can do so at this time in relation to the testimony.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, I would like to direct that the RPC does not have enough information contained in the letter from Vice President of Administration and Finance for UNR to evaluate the objections from UNR stated in the letter, and I propose directing staff to follow up with UNR to further determine the objections of the tiering from UNR.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Chesney, second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Commissioner Vanderwell, can you clarify the timeline that you're proposing that coordination occur?
Thank you.
Director Smith, what type of timeline do you need?
Well, Chairman Smith, the record, in order to have them come and just give testimony, it would have to be tomorrow. So I guess first thing in the morning.
There you go. So if Director Smith, if you can arrange a conversation with UNR?
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you.
Is everyone clear on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Any other comment from board members?
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, certainly.
Director.
Oh, I do have a couple of
Oh,
questions.
thank you. Jeremy
forgot
Smith
my
for the
notes
record.
here.
Russ, I just wanted to address the GIS comment. Absolutely. There are on the maps in the plan, the arterials are there, but they're not labeled. But we also have a because, I mean, some of the times the point of the map is sort of, like I mentioned, to show those tiers. But there's an online tool as well that you can go online and actually stack everything and turn on imagery and the roads in the lot. And we're probably going to be working on some large format versions of them too that will have street labels. So I just wanted to let folks know that we're working on it too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, she shut me off because I was bumping the microphone. So then I will close item 5A and go to item 6. 6A, members and directors reports. Any?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a reminder that we have a meeting tomorrow night at Marvin Piccolo School, and also a regularly scheduled Regional Planning Commission meeting on October 9th. I believe that's going to be at the Reno Council Chambers. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? 6B, legal counsel report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jessica Prunty for the record. Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7, request for future agenda items. Item 8, any other public comments?
Hello again. It's not every day I get called to be in error, so I just wanted to correct 2 items. First of all, I'm pretty sure I said for the record that water and sewer are stubbed to Silver Knolls at the end of Echo, as Mr. Earl said, and that is the truth. They're not stubbed to our project, but they are stubbed to Silver Knolls. Secondly, for the benefit of Mr. Earl, my understanding, I hope I'm correct, is that our property in Silver Knolls is zoned 1 acre, but the county has a cap on it in the current plan that it cannot go over 5 units per acre. So there are 2 different items, and I hope my testimony was clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Thank you. Any written correspondence?
New job. There is none.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow night.